Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Reading. We are a regional church serving communities north of Boston, and with our online outreach, families and individuals in multiple states. My name is Al Murray, and my pronouns are he, his, him. I serve as a member of the technology team, the reopening team, and the worship arts team, having just stepped down from the chair. I also have a bit of a cold, so I'll be speaking with a mask today. I wish to welcome you all here today. We welcome you as you are, and are glad you have chosen to be with us. For those of you physically in the sanctuary, a few housekeeping notes, reminders of how to get around, and I hope that our online folk will humor us. If you would like to use one of our hearing assist devices, please check at either of the entrances or raise your hand and an usher will assist you. Similarly, if you would like a large print order of service, they're also available at the doors. In case of an emergency evacuation, please note that the Fellowship Hall entrance here by the door and the Woburn Street exit behind you have ramps, while the Austin Room door has 6 steps. Please exit and get away from the church building and gather either on the lawn in front of Loring or Sawyer. And please note that the closest exit to you may not be the one you entered from. In the event of a lesser emergency, there are toilets in the atrium through the doors by the piano, also through the Austin Room door, again with a few steps, and at the bottom of the Austin Room stairs down a community hall. One other piece of business, perhaps more literally, is that for several years now, we, the congregation and members of UUCR, have been donating 1/2 of our weekly offering to a group that shares in our Unitarian Universalist beliefs and goals. We do this not because we have excess money, but because we feel it is the right thing to do. Our Share the Plate partner for September is Center for Common Ground. Center for Common Ground has been fighting voter suppression and empowering underserved communities since 2018. It is a nonpartisan voting rights organization led by people of color. Its mission is to advocate for voting rights and to educate and empower underrepresented voters so they can fully participate in elections. Center for Common Ground is currently focused on the midterm elections with our Reclaim the Vote campaign. This group also provides voter education, voter registration assistance, and helps with finding voting locations. The Center for Common Ground is also a partner of the UUA's UU the Vote campaign. So we have a new minister, some new staff members, new RE people. We might be trying a few new things during the service, while keeping the tradition and familiarity of worship. One such thing is that we are adding a line to the chalice extinguishing words. Oh no, changing. Many people have mentioned that the phrase is incomplete. So we are adding the line until we are together again. This is a heads up. You'll have about 48 minutes from now until this comes up. So be ready. Some will like this change, some will not. Some will not care. Please let us know how you feel about this, or any other changes you might suggest. On behalf of all the staff and volunteers involved in today's worship, I wish to thank you for being with us this morning, physically or virtually, and you can see the list of participants in your order of service. One last thing. We believe that you belong here. We truly believe that you belong here, maybe just for the next hour, although we hope for longer. You belong here, and we give thanks that you are joining us today.
Thank you, Al. Good morning. My name is Reverend Laura Solomon, and I am your contract minister. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. It is an honor and a privilege to serve this community and the world with you. As we arrive in this place for worship, whether this place is the sanctuary or your kitchen table, I invite you to take a moment to fully arrive with me. Worship is a time where we are invited to bring our full selves into the experience. The joyful parts, the messy parts, the hurting parts, the introverted parts, the playful parts, the needy parts, all of you is invited into this moment. As you arrive into your worshipful place, maybe you take a breath, maybe you stretch, maybe you shake your sillies out, and then we will turn our attention to the sound of the bell to bring our hearts, minds, bodies, and spirits fully into worship. Our opening words this morning come from the Reverend Margaret Keep. As surely as we belong to the universe, we belong together. We join here to transcend the isolated self, to reconnect, to know ourselves to be at home here on earth, under the stars, linked with each other. Each week, Unitarian Universalists across the world light the flaming chalice, the symbol of our shared Unitarian Universalist faith. As Al lights our chalice this morning, I invite you to read, recite, or listen to these chalice-lighting words as though for the first time. May the promises and aspirations of these words center us in who we are and who we may yet be. The words are printed in your order of service. In the light of truth, the warmth of community, the fire of commitment, we gather this day. May the flame we now kindle be to us a symbol of the holiness we seek. I believe that what we tell our children should get to the very center and the truth of who we are. In that light, I would like to invite any children who would like to help me with the children's affirmation to come and stand on the red carpet. I know I've got at least one helper. 2 helpers, amazing, oh my goodness. Perfect. We are Unitarian Universalists, the Church of the open mind, the loving heart, and the helping hands. You all may have a seat right there if you would like, and we'll do our time for all ages in just a moment.
We'll get them back again. They look like they were ready to do plenty. Good morning, everyone. We're going to sing our first opening hymn as a round. It's a one that's familiar to many of you, so I hope that, singing in a round is not going to throw off your morning. I think we're going to do a fabulous job. But speaking of adding missing phrases, this song, the words for this song were written about 1,000 years ago by Rumi, the poet Rumi. And the one line that is off of this wonderful advice, come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come, are. Though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, that means though you've made some mistakes 1,000 times, come yet again, come. So we're going to start with that word of wisdom, and then sing all together, and then I'll split up, and you guys will be part 1, you guys will be part 2, and we'll then sing it through twice. We can do this. All right. Stand as you are willing and in spirit. So, though you've broken your vows, if that appeals to you, please join. Here we go. Come, come. Come, come, whoever you are, wander, worship. worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet. Let's all do that one more together. Come, come, whoever you are, wonder worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Let's start and come, come, whoever you are. Come, come, whoever you are. Wonder worship, lovers of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, come, whoever you are. Come, come, whoever you are. Wonder worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no pleasure of despair. Come yet again, come. And how great that you found the hymn, even though I didn't give you the number. Well done. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mary. And thank you all. I invite our kids to come up front, or anyone else who might be interested in learning more and talking more about the hymn that we just sang together. I want to know your thoughts and feelings. Perfect, you can have a seat. I want to know your thoughts and feelings about the words that we just sang. Perfect. It's so good to see all of you. So, what did you all think of that hymn that we just sang? Would you give it a thumbs up, a thumbs down, or a thumb in the middle? Thumbs up, perfect. Me too. I really like that one. So I know Mary said that this song was written by somebody 1,000 years ago, more than 1,000 years ago, whose name was Rumi. And that's what we think. We think that these words were written by Rumi, but we're not quite sure. There's some debate about it. So there are other versions of the song that were written even earlier, and then at some point it was changed into the version that we see in our hymnal. That song is one that we sing a lot in Unitarian Universalist congregations, particularly when we are talking about welcome and covenant. Does anybody know what a covenant is? Did I say continent? I did not, but that is a very good word. I did not, no. You do know what a continent is. Excellent, excellent. No, we're talking about covenant. So a covenant is a promise that we make to each other about how we're going to act and what we are going to do when we are together. So part of our covenant here at church says that everyone is welcome. I think that's a pretty good promise. What do you think? Pretty good promise? Awesome. Do you have something to share? Yeah. I love your name tag. Thank you so much, Kaylee. So when we sing that song, I like to imagine someone standing at the door and welcoming me in with wide open arms, saying, "Come in, come in, come in. You are welcome here." How does it feel to see somebody standing and welcoming you in? Yes. Good. What do you think? Appreciated. That's an excellent word. Absolutely. So the next part of the song says, come in even if you've been wandering and traveling for a long time. Come in if you are a religious person or if you have left religion. Come in even if you've changed your mind about where you belong or if you're not sure where you belong. Come on in. How does that part feel? Thumbs up. Awesome. I agree. Thumbs up. The next part says, this is a place where we move together towards joy. Here, we work together to move towards love and freedom and happiness for everyone. And this is not the way to despair or hopelessness. Come on in and let's learn how to move towards joy together. How does that part feel? Does moving towards joy sound like a pretty good idea? Yeah, I agree. The last part, though, is what I think is most important, even though this part wasn't written in our hymnal. The last part says, "Come on in, even if you've made a couple mistakes or a lot of mistakes. Come on in if you have made a promise and broken it a couple times, or even if you've broken your promises a lot of times. Come on in if you have done things that you regret or feel bad about. Come on in if you get angry or frustrated sometimes." Does anybody get angry and frustrated sometimes? Yeah, me too, for sure. "Come on in if you mess things up. We can still move towards joy and love together here." How does that part feel? Good. It makes me feel better knowing that all of who I am is welcome here, even the part that sometimes makes mistakes. Have you ever made mistakes and broken promises? Yeah. Have you ever made a mess of things? Yeah, me too. It feels pretty good to know that even if you have broken your promises or made mistakes or made a mess, that here at UUCR, you are loved and welcomed. Thanks for talking with me about our hymn. I'm going to invite you to go back to your seats for just a little bit. We're going to light candles and pray together. And if you have a joy or a sorrow, you're welcome to light a candle then too. After that, you'll go downstairs and you will have some RE class time with Laura Ellen and Marie and Astrid.
We take time during our service to light our candles of community, peace, and justice. We light this red candle of community to hold in our presence those members of our congregation that either through illness, distance, or inability to travel cannot be physically with us. As always, we remind ourselves that we are a people in community, far flung though we may be. We light the blue and yellow candles for freedom from oppression. We started this in February to hold Ukraine in our hearts, but now the blue sky and yellow flowers represent our wish that all peoples, whether attacked by a neighboring country or illegally transported against state lines, or whose health and reproductive rights are threatened by opportunistic headline-seeking politicians, with our help are freed from oppression. We take this moment to pledge ourselves anew to the work of love, remembering that peace is only possible through justice and liberation. May these flames burn bright and strong in each of us.
Will you pray with me? God of many names, we give thanks this morning for all of life's joys. We are grateful for this opportunity to be together, for the deepening of relationships in this new church year, for the beginning of religious education and the presence of children in our midst. There is much in our lives to be grateful for. We pause for a moment, recognizing the joys, big or small, that are present in our days. And we also know there are sorrows this morning, some which are too big for words. We hold in this community illness and fears and loss. We hold concern for loved ones and for ourselves. Help us remember that though none of us is perfect, though we all make mistakes, though we all at times cause harm, though we all must say sorry sometimes, each and every one of us is also a blessing. This community and our world is changed because we are in it. In this community of gratitude and grief, celebration and mourning, forgiveness and blessing, in the fullness of all that life brings, may we remember that we are held in a greater love, and we are not alone. Amen. If you would like to light a candle of joy or sorrow, you are invited to come forward now.
Our reading this morning is from What They Dreamed Be Ours to Do, Lessons from the History of the Covenant by the Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker. Let us covenant with one another to keep faith with the source of life, knowing that we are not our own. Earth made us. Let us covenant with one another to keep faith with the community of resistance, never to forget that life can be saved from that which threatens it, even small bands of people choosing to put into practice an alternative way of life. And let us covenant with one another to seek for an ever deeper awareness of that which springs up inwardly in us, even when our hearts are broken by our own failure or by the failure of others cutting into our lives, even when we have done all we can and life is still broken. There is a universal love which has never broken faith with us and never will. This is the ground of our hope, and this is the reason we can be bold in seeking to fulfill the promise.
Thank you, choir. That was gorgeous. We're going to do something a little bit different this morning and read UUCR's relational covenant together. The word covenant, as I explained to the children, means to come together by making a promise. And this is the covenant. These are the promises we make as we come together here. I invite you to read the words in italics printed in your order of service. Welcome. Connect. Share. Communicate. Support. Embrace. Forgive. Thank you. Many years ago, I had the opportunity to teach Our Whole Lives, a sexuality education curriculum, to kindergarten and first grade students. As with most Unitarian Universalist gatherings with people of all ages, we began by creating a covenant. These kids were experienced covenant creators, so we flew through this process quickly with all the usual standbys. We agree to keep our bodies to ourselves, we agree to listen to one another, we agree to take turns. We talked about how sometimes problems come up and we need to remind each other of the covenant, and that that's okay. And I reminded them that sometimes we need to come back and add things to our covenant. Yes, they nodded, we've got it. We keep our bodies to ourselves, we listen to one another, we take turns. And then I gave them their next activity, something involving crayons. And within 2.5 minutes, they were yelling over top of one another. 2 of them had hoarded all of the crayons. They were sitting 2 and 3 to a chair, and someone was crying that she had taken an elbow to the eye. "Friends," I exclaimed, "what about our covenant?" "Oh, right," they nodded. "We keep our bodies to ourselves, we listen to one another, and we take turns." And 2.5 minutes later, that whole scenario played out again. By the end of that first session, we had all broken our vows at least 1,000 times. Luckily, the word covenant means to come together by making a promise, and not to come together in utter perfection without mistakes, lest we be cast out and written off. Over the course of 8 weeks, I watched those children break their covenant and welcome one another back into covenant again and again as they tried over and over to live into their best selves. My favorite day, though, was the day a child who was dressed as Luke Skywalker repeatedly used his imaginary lightsaber on another child. After asking him repeatedly to stop at ever-increasing decibels, the child said, "Miss Laura, we need to add no lightsabers to our covenant." Notice that she didn't say, "Miss Laura, I am leaving OWL forever," or "Miss Laura, kick out the Luke Skywalker wannabe." Instead, what she said was, "Miss Laura, I have been trusting in these agreements and trusting this community, and they're both letting me down. We need to have a serious conversation about who we are and how we are with one another if I am going to continue to be here." And we did. And because 5- and 6-year-olds can be the greatest teachers in the world, the great lightsaber debate ended with an "I'm sorry" and an "I forgive you." And then we did the exact same thing next week when the invisible lightsaber made an appearance again. Though you've broken your vows 1,000 times. In her sermon titled, "What They Dreamed Be Ours to Do," Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker says that we inherit covenant before we create it. We are born into relationship before we shape relationships with our conscious intention, she writes. As I enter this community as your minister, I am learning more about your covenants, your promises to one another. There is the written covenant we read earlier, but there are also unspoken promises that are historical and regional and unique. Our Unitarian Universalist values shape our promises and our relationships. Your congregational history shapes our promises and our relationships, as do my prior relationships with other congregations. As you allow me to enter this community as your minister, I have covenants with you and with others. I have the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association, ethics and guidelines, and I am in covenant with other UU ministers in ways that shape my professional behavior. These ethics and guidelines guide me in my behavior and decision-making, and they hold me accountable. Accountable to the Unitarian Universalist Association and the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association. I am accountable to my colleagues, accountable to the governing board of UUCR, and accountable to each of you. I trust, as part of our covenant we have with one another, that you will hold me accountable to our values and to my professional guidelines. As part of our covenant, I hope that we can agree on the things we read together earlier, particularly the points about communicating honestly, clearly, respectfully, and the points about forgiving ourselves and each other when we fall short. To be clear, I also promise that I will never bring my imaginary lightsaber to church, just in case anybody was concerned. Accountability is an essential piece we all hold in maintaining a healthy covenantal relationship. I hope you know that one of the ways I hope to love you and be in relationship with you is by helping us live more fully into our values. I believe so fully in each of you individually. I believe in this congregation, and I believe in Unitarian Universalism. I believe we are worth the hard work that is needed for change. Our verbal promises are the frosting on the cake, Reverend Parker writes. They aren't the cake itself. They may help us keep the covenant we are in, but they are not the covenant itself. Instead, she asserts that covenant is sustained by practice. Covenant is sustained by practice. The covenant is the breaking of vows 1,000 times and still coming back in, still being welcomed back in, still welcoming back. Come, and yet again come. The covenant is the act of coming together for worship in this Unitarian Universalist congregation. It is the act of coming together with room for the experience and voice and vote of every person. It is the act of coming together to resist injustice and work towards liberation. Covenant is not just our words. Covenant is action, it is accountability, and it is grace. Covenant is action, accountability, and grace. We are so lucky to have the gorgeous quilt hanging here behind me. This quilt was made by our incredibly talented quilters for this year's raffle, and they titled it Coming Together in Love. They wrote that it is a quilt inspired by confidence that brokenness can be healed. I don't want to put words in our quilters' mouths, but I think this quilt is a representation of covenant. It's in motion. The heart is in the process of coming together, as we always are, practicing coming together in love. Practicing coming together in covenantal community. Practicing coming together, though we have broken our vows 1,000 times. Practicing coming together, though we will break our vows 1,000 times more. wanderers, worshipers, lovers of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, and yet again, come. To close our sermon, we are going to sing a responsive hymn, number 1037 in your teal hymnal. I will read the spoken part, and you will sing the response with the choir. For remaining silent when a single voice would have made a difference. For each time that our fears have made us rigid and inaccessible.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time we have struck out in anger without just cause.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time that our greed has blinded us to the needs of others.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For the selfishness that set us apart and alone.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For falling short of the admonitions of the Spirit.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For losing sight of our unity.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For those and for so many acts, both evident and subtle, which have fueled the illusion of separateness.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
Amen.
Our congregation exists and thrives through the gifts of those who call this place their spiritual home. If you are here with us in the sanctuary, you may put your gift in the collection plate as it goes by. Otherwise, you may make a gift online or send a check. Please give as generously as you are willing and able to our Share the Plate offering to support our needs and the Center for Common Ground. If this is your first time with us, your presence is gift enough. Thank you for being here.
This place
Good morning. I'm Melissa Martin, your Member Services and Volunteer Coordinator and your Interim Congregational Administrator. My pronouns are she and her. Our congregational life invitations today include ways for us to connect what we share together here in our worship service and the other areas of our spiritual community and our larger world. Details for all of these opportunities can be found in our newsletter. Our Kris Kringle Fair is only a month away on Saturday, October 15th from 9 to 2. Raffle tickets can be purchased during today's social hour. This week, we are highlighting our country store and our silent auction. The country store, led by Lorraine Dennis and Liz Lovell, are already at work making jam, picking peaches, and blueberries, and planning for lots of yummy things for sale on Kris Kringle Fair Day, and they need your help. You don't need to be a fancy chef to help, so please see the newsletter on how you can reach them and share your treats. They're looking for help on the day of the fair as well. Do you have a high interest item that you would create, spirited bidding at our silent auction? Tickets to a play or a sporting event, a fun and sought after collectible, a special doll, original art, extraordinary pieces of jewelry, glass, a fancy bag or scarf, holiday gift baskets. For your professional services, our silent auction team would love to advertise some items in advance for everyone to start planning their bids, so please see the newsletter to learn more. We are proud to report that composting has returned to UUCR, grown under the UUCR Green Sanctuary and tended to by all of our congregation. Our kitchen is stocked with compostable products and have renewed our curbside pickup service with Black Earth Compost. Now, all we need is a few local friends to help us put the bins out and to bring them back in midweek. Check our newsletter for details or see myself or Allison Sillers. Next Sunday, September 25th, everyone is invited to join our Social Hour Connections Fair. Come and learn about all of the opportunities for connection here at UCR. Leaders of groups, please let me know if you would like to reserve a table by tomorrow. For today, those joining us online are invited to use the Zoom link that's in the resource guide to join the online social hour hosted by Tom Model. Thank you, Tom. Those with us in person are invited to stay for today's RE picnic, which is out back. RE parents should head down to Community Hall first to accompany their children outside, and we look forward to seeing you all there. Thank you for being a vital part of our congregational life. Now, please rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing the closing hymn, number 168, One More Step.
We extinguish our chalice today with the chalice extinguishing words in your order of service. Please note, these words differ slightly with our typical chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Come, come, whoever you are. Though you have broken your vows 1,000 times, though we have broken our vows 1,000 times, we welcome one another to this space where we are part of an imperfect, open-hearted, justice and liberation-seeking community. Here, knowing we will fail, we strive to fulfill our promises, and we come together in love. May it be so. Amen.